Hey there, history lovers. It is I, your fearless leader, Dave Smith, Professor Smith. Feeling like hell. I've got a terrible cold or the beginning of some sort of plague, like the zombie apocalypse has infested me. I feel terrible. Um, you may be asking yourself, then why are you going to record the video lecture right now? Because you guys are going to have to be watching it within a very short period of time. I don't have a lot of options, so I've kind of got to get this done. It may not be my best piece of work, but I'll do my best. And if it turns out terribly, sometimes none of us do our best job always, right? You guys will be forgiving. I've got tea here. Look at that. Can you dig it? 3 different kinds of tea to fortify myself. I've got gallons of water. I have Ricola set up and just waiting, ready to roll. I'm in the zone. I get a snot rag to blow my nose, in the zone. Okay, so here we go, guys. Gods, time, and space. The cosmology and spiritual beliefs of the Aztecs. I've even got an appropriate t-shirt on with a little cosmic flavor here, right? Okay. So, let's get the show on the road. No more stalling. Let's talk about the primary gods of the Aztecs. To start off, the supreme creator god of the Aztecs is Ometeotl, who inhabits Omeyocan, or the highest heaven, the 13th level of heaven, 13 levels of the heavens. He's at the top. His or her name, his and her name, means the Lord of Duality, or the dual divinity. Ometeotl was not a being per se, but being itself. In other words, all things are manifestations, of Ometeotl. Ometeotl has many names. Ipalnemowani, the giver of life. Tlokinawake, the one who is close and near. I like that one a lot. Omotekutli Romasihuatl, the Lord and Lady of Duality. Tonokatekutli or Tonasihuatl, the Lord and Lady of our flesh. Mictlantekutli and Mictlansihuatl, the Lord and Lady of the Underworld. Ometeotl had 4 sons, each of whom was good and bad, good and evil, if you will, had a dark and a light side, possessed several attributes, and represented colors as well as a cardinal point of direction on the axis mundi, or on the compass of the world, north, south, east, west. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, the eagle that flies through the sky, the god of the west, whose color was white and whose symbol was a woman. He was associated with wind and fertility, water and wisdom, philosophy, the arts, science and medicine, writing and education, the dawn, agriculture and life, not to mention the creation of the heavens and earth. He is the patron of priests and also worshipped as Lord of the dawn and of the planet Venus. In this aspect known as Tlahuitzcalpantecutli. Interestingly, even though associated with the spark of life, Quetzalcoatl's direction was west, which was the region of birth and decay, the mystery of origin and of end. Tezcatlipoca means Lord of the Smoking Mirror. His color was black, and he was associated with the north, the symbol of which was a shard of obsidian or volcanic glass, flint, used to make fire and sacrificial knives, among other things. The god of sorcerers, warriors, and rulers, he is omnipresent and invisible. As the jaguar god, he was Tepeyolotl, or Mountain Heart. In his darker moments, he was the master of shadows, night and black magic, and referred to as Chalchiutecolotl, precious owl, and Chalchiutecolotl, precious turkey. The embodiment of change through conflict, also the god of fate, justice, dryness, death, and midnight. The north was the region of darkness, coldness, and war. Xipe the flayed god, also known as Tlatauqui and Chalchutlique. He was the god of agriculture and of springtime renewal, of metal workers and disease, but he could both cure and afflict. He flayed himself or peeled off his own skin to provide man with food, just as the corn seed sheds its outer husk before germination. Xipe was god of the Red East, or Balan, the symbol of which was a reed. The East was also considered to be the region of light, and so was associated with the sunrise. Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird of the south, or the left-handed hummingbird, was symbolized by a rabbit. Associated with the sun and war, youth and conquest, his color was blue. Supreme patron of the Aztecs and their empire, his direction was the south, which was the tropical region of heat and fire. These four brothers, and Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl in particular, were constantly struggling, and their greatest struggles were associated with the death and rebirth of the ages of the world, or the suns. The Aztecs believed that they lived in the age of the fifth sun, and that the world had been born and then destroyed 4 times previously, along with its race of inhabitants at that time, and that each sun and cataclysm corresponded to one of the 4 elements. The ends of the worlds had played out in the following manners. The first sun, represented by a jaguar, an earth monster. The people were giants, and Tezcatlipoca was overthrown by Quetzalcoatl, but became a giant jaguar, who then spawned others who promptly devoured all of the giants, and then the world. The second sun was born, presided over by the victorious Quetzalcoatl. This sun was characterized, and to be destroyed by, air or wind. When Tezcatlipoca returned to life and brought down a mighty hurricane on the world and its inhabitants, who were then turned into monkeys, even as they were blown off into oblivion and destroyed. This ushered in the third sun, the sun of fire and rain, which seems sort of contradictory, but this is what the sources tell us. Wherein Tlaloc, the rain god, had an important role to play. Somewhat confusingly, this is considered to be the fire sun, because the fourth sun was the sun of water. When Chalchutlique, Tlaloc's sister, drowned the world in a great flood and turned all of the people into fish. If some of these things seem sort of mutually contradictory, yeah. When you study any ancient mythology or belief system, particularly when they are polytheistic, when they deal with multiple gods, you're going to find lots of mutual contradictions, not just because there are many interpretations and many different versions of the same stories, but because you're dealing with information that comes to us primarily out of oral traditions. So it's not like, all of this comes down out of a set of Encyclopedia Britannicas, right? Or a bunch of, how-to world religions for dummies or whatever, textbooks from the dawn of time. There is no one perfect rendition of the Norse myths, or the Greek myths, or the ancient myths of India, or the myths of the Maya, or any other part of Mesoamerica. You have to understand that and sort of embrace that, going into things. The information that I'm giving you is the information that makes the most sense to me based upon the sources that I've read and the sources that I've compared. It's what I'm most comfortable with. Okay, so having said that, let's continue. The fifth sun, or the fifth age of the world, the sun of movement, came into being in the following manner. Nothing was left but a great sea, a great ocean, and in it dwelt the monster Tlateotl, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca fought to kill the monster and succeeded in doing so, but in the fight she bit off one of Tezcatlipoca's feet. You can see that right here, right? The brothers tore her in half and threw the bottom half up in the air to form the heavens, and the bottom half was used to create the earth. Tlacteotl thus became the earth goddess, sacrificed so that man would have a place to live. Need a little bit of water, guys. Sorry, but throat is very dry. Oops. Pardon me. Then all of the gods came together in the dark at Teotihuacan, and it was there that two lesser gods volunteered to sacrifice themselves in a bonfire to give birth to the new sun and moon, meaning the sun in the heavens, not the age of the world, referred to as a sun. They did so, and their spirits rose into the heavens to become the new sun god, Donatia, and the new moon goddess, Mesdli, also known as Tlazoteotl, but when worshipped most commonly known as Coyolxauhqui. However, the new moon was so bright there was fear that it would diminish the sun, so one of the gods threw a rabbit at the moon to blot out some of its brightness, and it's still there today. At this time, Donatia demanded blood as a sacrifice to power his movements across the heavens, so the gods agreed and allowed Quetzalcoatl to take their hearts, and later men would follow this example of piety, sacrificing the hearts of men to the gods, okay, as a way of paying tribute to them, for their great sacrifice in giving of themselves to give life to the sun and the moon, and so to create a world and a place where men could be brought back to life and survive, right? This is why the Teotihuacanos built the pyramids of the sun and the pyramid of the moon, which you see here in this image. Here is a groovy image that I found on the internet that someone created, I don't know who, of Donatia, the sun god. There is the central image on the sunstone of the Aztecs, but sort of turned into an illustration here. So you see right here, Donatia, this mouth and his tongue made to look like a flint or an obsidian blade. Okay, his clawed hands with the hearts clutched within them, if you can dig it, right? Okay, now here you see in one of the codices of the 1500s, 16th century, the rabbit in the moon obscuring some of the moon's brightness, right? And you're saying, what are you talking about? You said a minute ago that there's still a rabbit in the moon. You guys don't believe me that there's a rabbit in the moon? Just go out and look at the moon tonight. El conejo en la luna, man. The rabbit's in the moon every night of your life. It's been there. It's going to be there forever. There's a rabbit in the moon. It's always there. All the time. Kidding me? Amazing what you learn in a history class, right? Never seen this before? Okay. Now, for those of you that have been doing the readings, and if you're not in my history class and you're just watching this, sorry, but I don't have time to explain this to you, but yeah, this is just for you guys that have been doing the readings. You know what the drunkest 400 rabbits refers to, right? With the birth of Huitzilopochtli and chasing them around and around, and yeah. Now, let's go on to talk about the creation tale of the Aztecs. 600 years having passed since the birth of the four brother gods, the sons of Amalteotl, the four assembled and said it would be well to organize what was to be done and establish the law to be followed. And it was agreed upon that Quetzalcoatl and Huitzilopochtli should be the ones to decide. And these two, through the commission and by the consent of the other two, created fire, and then the half-sun, which not being whole, gave little light. Later, they made a man and a woman. The man was named Oxomoco, and the woman Zipactonal, and they were sent to cultivate the earth. It was ordered that she spin and weave, and they give birth to Masehuales, or people, and that they not be idle, but always work. And to her gave the gods certain grains of corn for making cures, for soothsaying and witchcraft, and thus the women use them to this very day. And then they made the days and months, and they gave to each month 20 days, thus 18 months there were, and 360 days in the year, as will be related. Mictlantecutli and Mictlantecuhtli were next created man and wife gods of hell, to which they were assigned. And then they created the heavens to the 13th level and caused the waters to be. And from the waters they created an enormous fish known as Cipactli, which was like an alligator, and from this fish the earth was made. I want to make a couple of quick comments. You may be saying 360 days in the year, there's 365. We'll get more into that later. You may be saying, man and wife gods of hell. The Aztecs believed in hell. This creation tale was rendered under the watchful eye of Spanish priests after the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs. Okay, so some of this information is going to be translated and laid out in such a way as to, let's say, satisfy the desires and the designs of the Spanish imperial administration and the Spanish priests serving within it. But we'll talk all about this stuff a little bit further along in the course. Okay, now, going back to the readings, the next 15 images or so are associated with the readings. Here you see Coatlicue, whose name means she who wears the skirt, of snakes, okay? Her skirt is all sorts of snakes dangling down and twisted together. I've already talked about her at length in previous videos. Again, if you're not in my class, sorry, you can look a little bit more into it elsewhere, but I'm going to talk about her a bit here. To the left are the only two extant life-size statues of Coatlicue. They're about 10, 12 feet high, something like that. She's a beloved mother to the Aztecs, associated with the earth, but specifically with the earth as not just a giver, but also as a destroyer and a devourer. Because after all, everything that comes to life on earth is returned to it in death. The earth gives and takes away. The earth creates and consumes. So rather than warm and maternal, like another earth goddess, Tonantzin, who was an aspect of Coatlicue, Coatlicue, is depicted as a more fierce, kind of tough mother, with her dual rattlesnake heads, her reptilian clawed limbs, serpent skirt, and necklace of alternating hands, hearts, and skull, representing the ability of human beings to dream and make their dreams manifest. She was the perfect womb to produce the Aztecs' patron god, Huitzilopochtli. Okay? An illustration of her, a slightly more, let's say, simplistic and humanistic sculpture, smaller sculpture of her. Another illustration of her, obviously far more humanistic. Some very far out riffs on her, visual riffs on her, very interesting stuff that I found on the internet. More of the same. A very interesting riff on Gustav Klimt's very famous painting, The Kiss, which you see on the right, and then this kind of, on the left, this kind of fusion of Coatlicue with the Virgin of Guadalupe, and then paying tribute to or homage to Klimt's painting, The Kiss. Really spectacular piece of work. I don't know who painted it, or I would give the artist, I would attribute the artist. This sculpture of Koyol Shauki that you see on the left is about 20 feet across. You can see the cracks, through it here, this big crack. This is a museum in Mexico City. This was found down under the Zocalo in Mexico City, downtown Mexico City, near the cathedral, the ruins of the Templo Mayor. It's almost perfectly preserved. It was just cracked in half right here. It's down like in the lobby of the museum, in like the middle of a rotunda. And when you go up top and then you look down on it, it gets lit up by these alternating lights. Like it looks like this, and then like the blue light comes on, and then the red light comes on, and slowly but surely the different lights come on, sort of showing you the different parts of it, like highlighting it. So you can see how it's the image of Coyolxauhqui having been torn or broken into pieces by Huitzilopochtli after he was born. If Coyolxauhqui trying to kill his mother, and he tore his way out of the room and tore Coyolxauhqui into pieces, right? And then here's a huge sculpture. This is about like 5 feet high, of her head. She's described as having bells on her cheeks. You can see them here. Okay. Anyway, pretty awesome. Again, some internet images of Coyolxauhqui. You know, wherever I know who the artist is, I give them an attribution down below. Kind of cool riffs on the character. There's 3 images here dealing with the birth of Huitzilopochtli by this artist who refers to herself as Alyssa Sketches. So, and then one other by another artist that kind of tells the story. You know, here you see, again from the readings, Coatlicue being impregnated by the feathers, right, falling down out of the sky. And then Coyolxauhqui coming to kill her. Then by some other artist, here's Huitzilopochtli having torn his way out of his mother, or emerged from his mother to defeat Coyolxauhqui. And then Coyolxauhqui having been torn to pieces and thrown into the sky to become the moon, ultimately. Pretty cool. I think so, at least. And something else I thought was interesting I'd throw in here. Just kind of make a quick reference to, I don't know how much you guys know about Joseph Campbell, one of the towering figures in the 20th century in terms of the study of world mythologies. The hero, he wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and is the kind of primary architect behind the idea of the monomyth, that the idea that all of the myths from around the world come out of the same pot of like unconscious alphabet soup that we've all got down simmering deep within our human, well, unconscious, okay? And the reason why so many myths are so similar from all around the world is because we're all drawing upon this same, like I said, I like my own metaphor, like alphabet soup. We're all dipping up out of this same soup of letters and images, and, you know, so you've got the story of Coatlicue being impregnated by this ball of feathers that falls down out of the heavens, right? You know, sent by some other god or something. You know, well, in Greek mythology, you have the story of Danae. Here's another painting by Gustav Klimt, interestingly, from 1907. Danae was this Greek girl, and a rain of golden coins fell down through her window into her bedroom between her legs, and impregnated her. And the golden coins were actually the father of the god, Zeus, who wanted to have sex with her. And so he had sex with her in the form of these golden coins, and then impregnated her with a child who then became a demigod, and, you know, like Huitzilopochtli became a god, so just interesting how similar, these stories are that you find from all around the world, right? And then when I was looking for this painting, I found something interesting, a photograph, as hard as it is to believe, because it looks like a painting, right? But this is actually a post photograph, a recreation by an Austrian photographer named Inge Prader. She did a whole exhibition of the recreation of the great paintings of Klimt. She recreated them as photographs. Look her up on the internet and just look at her recreations of Klimt's paintings from just 2015. If I had known this was happening, I would have flown to see this exhibition. Those amazing things. I mean, they were posed like people. You could go and see this live, like people standing in these recreations of these paintings, and then she took pictures of them, but you could see it live. It's like mind-boggling. Anyway, okay. Back on topic. So, okay. The next thing I want to talk about are the 13 heavens and the 9 underworlds of the Aztecs. 13 levels of heaven, 9 levels of the underworld. I'm going to let you just pause. You can read through these. I don't need to read every single one of these guys. So go ahead and you can just sort of stop the video, look through this. Look through this. Take as long as you like, okay? And then here I am. I have a little tea. And talking about this. The various codices and the Spanish accounts offer wildly varying information regarding the Aztecs and their beliefs about souls, but there is a great degree of certainty about some things regarding the human soul, which had 3 parts, each with its own attributes and functions. The first, in no particular order, there was the tonali, from tona, or sun, like tonatia, and that was vigor, which was located in the head. It was associated with heat and destiny, and regulated growth, liveliness, and temperature. It remained in the body after death, and was believed to be kept in a box by one's family, along with some ashes and hair, after you were gone. Then there was the teyolia, from the yolotl, or heart. Okay, this was vitality, located in, El corazón, in the heart, and associated with knowledge, and the world above the earth. It left the body after death, and it was the only area of the soul to go on to the afterlife, and its destination had to do with the manner of death, with the way in which a person died. The third part of the soul was the iheyotl, or the breath, passions, and this was located in the liver, associated with emotions and desires, and it was understood to be a luminous or a glowing gas that influenced and attracted other beings, almost like pheromones in a way. It was thought to be expelled with the person's last breath and then to be dispersed by the wind. In a marked departure from most Christian doctrine, the destinations of souls had nothing to do with your moral conduct in life. If you were a good person, bad person, had nothing to do with anything. Okay, nothing, nada, jack squat. But it had everything to do with the manner of an individual's death. Death by drowning, lightning, leprosy, tumors, or anything associated with water, your soul went to Tlalocan, which was a kind of Garden of Eden of warm rains and wondrous fertility and vegetation. Death by sacrifice, childbirth, killed in combat. Your soul went into the 10th heaven, the 10th level of heaven, to become companions of the sun. Donatia el Huicac, a place of great honor. The Aztecs believed that these souls would twine into a new form of life, the hummingbird. Your soul would become a hummingbird, where they would dance in the heart of the sun forever. That's pretty groovy. No, I wouldn't mind that, really. If you died in infancy, then you went to Chichihuacuauco, the orchard of the gods, filled with trees that grew breasts, perpetually ripe with milk, to provide the infants with sustenance. The most prevalent belief regarding these souls held that when the world was destroyed, they would be the ones to repopulate the earth. Death in any other manner meant that your soul went to Mictlan. Mictlan. The majority of souls arrived here, but only after making their way through a harrowing journey of 9 stages. Number 1. Swim across the river Abanawaya, assisted by the Techichi dog that was buried with him specifically for this purpose. And yes, the Techichi dog was a Chihuahua. Okay? There he is. Little dude, right? Then you pass between 2 fierce mountains that constantly crashed against one another, the Tepetl Monomictia. Climb the mountain East Tepetl, made of sharp obsidian. Cross a land of 8 freezing gorges, the Sehuacayan, followed by Itzehecayan, the land of cutting winds. Make it through Temiminaloyan, where they would be attacked by storms of arrows and their hearts would be eaten by jaguars. Then they had to pass through a mysterious land where an alligator called Xochictonatl would compel them to cross the Chiconanahuapan, 9 rivers, again with the aid of the Techichi dog, so they could arrive in Chiconamictlan, a place of total darkness, to be received by Mictlan Tecotli after a journey thought to take 4 years, at which point the soul would dissolve into nothingness with no hope of eternal existence, unlike those who went to the other 3 realms of the afterlife. I mean, really? I mean, talk about a jip, right? I mean, why go? That's the story. You know, go figure. That's the story. It's interesting to note that the Aztec buried their dead in a fetal position. Perhaps this journey into the realm of the dead, where most were bound, this is where the majority of people went, was meant to represent a return to the womb. After all, there are 9 months of gestation, 9 menstrual cycles. And in this interpretation, the obstacles of the journey could become metaphors for the odyssey of the risks, pains, and transformation of birth. It is certainly something to think about. Okay. The Mayans and their cosmology. The Aztecs, while great innovators in many areas of creative and intellectual endeavor, were, for the most part, the inheritors of the astronomical research of earlier Mesoamerican peoples, particularly the Maya. The Maya placed great emphasis on certain days of the year of celestial significance. June 21st, for example, the summer solstice, which the Aztecs referred to as the day of Quetzalcoatl, the eagle that flies through the sky, the day of the largest sun, when the earth and the sun are closest together. December 21st, the summer solstice, which the Aztecs referred to as the day of Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird of the south, the day of the smallest sun, when the earth and the sun are furthest apart. That should be they. That's a typo. I apologize. They also placed importance on the equinoxes, March 21st and September 21st, when the Earth moves along its equatorial line and day and night are both exactly 12 hours in duration. These things the Maya knew, beyond any shadow of a doubt. We know this. But the names above are from the Aztecs, not the Maya. Here is an image of a cenote. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of these. Yes. Okay. throughout the Yucatan Peninsula. Okay, places where the limestone has collapsed, okay, down to the substrata of water that underlies the Yucatan Peninsula. Nice, lovely, still pools of water called cenotes. Okay, hang on to that for a minute, all right? There is some speculation, this is another cenote, but not absolute certainty, in spite of what some New Age Mayanists would have us believe, that the Maya knew that every 26,000 years there was a periodic alignment of the Earth, the Sun, and the Milky Way center, and that they believed that on that day, every 26,000 years, that a new beginning would commence. Not that there would necessarily be an end of the world, as so many people think. Okay, remember the drama of the year 2012? A couple years ago, guys? Right? Remember that big drama? You remember that big shitty movie? Remember that big stupid face that John Cusack had to make like 400 times in that movie? Did you guys see that big pile of poo? What a terrible movie. I mean, I knew it was terrible going into it. I watched it on TV. There's no way I was going to pay any money to see that. But just to see exactly how bad it was. Terrible. More terrible even than I thought it would be. Right? Of course it was. But okay. What is this thing? The end of the world. No. The real translation of what the Maya thought was not that it would be the end of the world in a necessarily a catastrophic or a destructive way, but an ending to the world or the reality that is, because there would be a beginning to a new world or reality. Emphasis on the second part, a beginning of a new world. That's more the thing. Okay, but now think about this. I tried to find something on the internet to illustrate this, and I tried even to draw it to illustrate it. I couldn't find anything that I felt satisfied with. Okay, so I want you to just look at me, my hands, and okay, here's the Earth. Here's the Sun. Here's the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which you see right there in front of you, that whorl, right? That bright spot right there, right? Now, every 26,000 years, the Earth is here, the Sun is here, and the center of the Milky Way galaxy are here, and they are perfectly lined up, meaning that on Earth, only once in every 26,000 years, we cannot see the center of the Milky Way galaxy. We can't see this because the sun is in the way. Okay? Just like we can't see the sun when the moon gets in the way, right? During a lunar eclipse. Okay? Okay, so the sun gets in the way once every 26,000 years, and we can't see the light from the Milky Way galaxy. Okay? This whorl, this G here, okay? The Maya believed that all energy, all power, everything that created energy on Earth came from there. And once every 26,000 years, we lost our connection to that power. Imagine if all the power that created all energy, all life, sustenance, everything on Earth, imagine if all of our energy was connected by an extension cord, by Wi-Fi, to the center of the Milky Way galaxy, okay? And then the sun got in the way and cut off the signal. Like when you go inside of a big building and your Wi-Fi gets cut off on your iPhone or whatever. Man, I got no bars, I got no signal. What's going on, man? Why you got to go back outside? Okay. I can't get my email. I can't get where's my Facebook or whatever, right? Okay. All right. Think about that. Imagine that, right? Well, what would happen if the whole Earth got cut off for a little while? Well, the Maya believed that when that happened, and then we got reconnected, it would mean that a whole new world would begin. But what does that mean exactly? Well, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know exactly what that means. Maybe nothing. I don't know. Nobody knows. Maybe even they didn't know. It may all be a bunch of nonsense. Okay? Anyway. Something interesting to think about. Look around on the internet more about it if you want to. You know, just be careful about what you buy into on there. Because like I said, there's a lot of New Age Mayanists out there that want you to buy into a lot of nonsense. Okay? Just be careful about what you buy. Right? Alright. So, how do they know any of these things that I've been talking about in terms of the solstices, the equinox, etc.? Careful observation of the movements of the celestial bodies, starting with the Maya and their cenotes. They looked into the cenotes at those perfectly still bodies of water, and they watched the movements of the celestial bodies. And extending all the way up to the time of the Aztecs to Nezahualcóyotl, who built a reflecting pool on the roof of his palace outside of Tenochtitlan in order to look at the heavens in quiet contemplation. Okay? One of the great intellectuals of the Aztec Empire during its last decades. One of his poems is even on the 100 peso note. Okay? You can see it right here. Right, hello, for God's sakes. Right there. The arrow showing a dinky little, right there it is magnified. Okay. Dude was a heavy hitter in terms of the Aztec intellectual sweepstakes. Here's an extraordinary mural. 37 years old. It still looks fantastic. This is just one little piece of it. On the Culver City Department of Motor Vehicles in Culver City, California, by Los Dos Streetscapers, way back in 1979, right? Showing Mayan astronomers like standing in the vortex of the astronomical sort of like landscape of space and bearing witness to the movements of celestial bodies. Oops, hang on a minute, guys. I'm having a problem with my... There we go. Okay, yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, now to continue with the Maya. For the Maya, the following three symbols were of essential importance in understanding the universe. G. G, man. No, not gangsta. Okay? G. Wait, oh, that's a huge typo right there. G, G was not 0. G was G. Dopey. G was 0, also representing a seed or egg. The beginning, it was the whirl at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. The sacred source of all energy and life on Earth, also possibly representative of Hunabku or Itzamna, the supreme creator god of the Maya. There's some debate on whether or not it represented this. This latter piece of information is hotly debated by Mayanists. Okay, I showed you this image previously. There's the G, the whirl of the Milky Way center, and there's this image of Hunabku. Here you see the Mayan G on the pedestal of a statue of Xochipilli, the Aztec patron god of flowers, dance, song, art, beauty, and games, as well as writing, painting, and gaze. His name literally means flower child, so you can even imagine him as the god of hippies as well. His relaxed pose and open-mouthed expression of ecstasy have been seen as a portrayal of the god in the throes of entheogenic transport. In other words, really, really stoned. Why so? Because all of the plant life to be seen carved into the effigy are of actual hallucinogenic plants that are and were to be found growing in Mesoamerica. Can you dig it? Yes, you can, because it is right there in front of you. T represented the sacred tree of life, the Seba. Gangjae is first the tree, meaning that the tree was the first life form on Earth, then came the animals, and then man. And the Maya believe, still believe, that when all things come to an end, at the end of time, the man would die after all the animals had died, which would come about after the death of the last tree. The T was also the central crossroads of every Mayan village, but not a capital T, lowercase t. Here you have the ceiba, Gangjae, first the tree. The Spanish were confused and then excited over the presence of what they perceived as crosses amongst the Maya and the Yucatan Peninsula. They concluded that it meant that Christ had visited the Americas at some point in the past. They did not realize that the crosses were metaphors for the ceiba tree that the Maya revered so very deeply. Pardon me. The Maya believed in an underworld called Xibalba, which was the Quiche Maya name for it, meant the place of fright. The land of the dead, where everyone went unless you died a violent death. The Maya believed that the underworld had 9 levels, and this was probably absorbed by other later Mesoamerican cultures, including the Aztecs, and that it was entered through the mouths of caves or bodies of still water, like cenotes. They also believed that the gods of the underworld were a grim and predatory group with names like Skull Scepter, Blood Gatherer, Bone Scepter, and Bloody Claw. And not to mention Pus Demon or Pus Master. In addition to these 24-hour party people, the relatively benign gods of the cosmos, rain god, fertility god, or Ki'inich'awa, the sun god, passed through Xibalba at night and took on a darker aspect while there. In his case, jaguar god of the underworld. Xibalba was an entire world of varied geography, every bit as large as the land of the living. But there was one geographical feature to it that was most important, muy importante, and that was the root system of the Huacachan, or the world tree. In the Mayan belief system, the Huacachan grew up and out of Xibalba into and through the sunlit forests of the world of man and beast and mountain, and into the sky and cosmos beyond. Indeed, the world tree's trunk and branches provided the routes whereby the celestial bodies made their way through the upper world, as well as the paths by which the souls of the dead were able to descend into the lower world, or Xibalba. In the early 20th century, the caves of Balan near Chichen Itza were discovered and first explored by archaeologists. Undisturbed for a millennium, they found within the cave system what seems to be a series of chambers that, through staging and natural structure, the Maya used for ceremonial purposes as a recreation of the after-death journey through Xibalba. At the terminus of this journey is a floor-to-ceiling column of limestone that strongly resembles the world tree growing up out of the underworld and into the upper world. Pretty groovy, huh? Oh, and dig this. It's interesting, and not to mention good fun, to also make note of the fact that the Maya were not alone amongst world cultures and their notion of a cosmos-spanning world tree, going back to Joseph Campbell and the monomyth. This is also central to the mythology, pardon me guys, listen to my voice, of the ancient Scandinavians, who had their Yggdrasil, usually seen as an ash tree, along whose branches were supported 9 worlds, among them the mortal world, as well as Scandinavian versions of heaven and hell. In the movie Thor, the world tree is drawn on 2 occasions, both times terribly. Once by Thor, over here on the right, trying to show off to Jane so he can get some action, and in the center there by Professor whatever his name was. I don't remember. No, I don't remember. But anyway, what they were both going for was something a little bit more like one of these 2 dudes over here on the left or in the middle, sort of better versions of what the Yggdrasil looked like with the 9 worlds, right? Very cool, I think. Me, at least. Now, the last of the 3 symbols so important to the Maya was O. the symbol of awakened consciousness, the symbol of knowledge in man. For the ancient Maya, the O in O1 or 01 is not a meaningless placeholder, as in Western mathematics, but the symbol of knowledge inherent in man's mastery of mathematics and other intellectual disciplines such as architecture, astronomy, writing, painting, sculpture, etc. Here you see the O, right? In Ulamalisli, the sacred ball game, it's called the sacred ball game because nearly all of the ball courts discovered in Mesoamerican cities thus far are located in the sacred ceremonial center. They're not like out in the suburbs where people lived and hung out and, you know, partied. They're where, you know, sacrifices went down. They're where the temples are. They're where the pyramids are. Okay, over 1,800 ball courts have been identified thus far, and there's probably more than that many more, at least, that haven't been uncovered yet because they haven't. They're lost in the jungle. Okay, many sites have more than one. At Cantona in Puebla, Mexico, there's 24 ball courts. It's very interesting. Cantona is not one of the greatest sites by any means, but for whatever reason, they have 24 ball courts there. Okay, now Ulamalisli dates back to at least 1400 BC, and the game was almost certainly created by the Olmecs, spreading from them through trade networks to virtually every other society in Mesoamerica. As a sacred game, its meaning has been intensely debated for centuries. Associated with fertility ceremonies, used as a proxy for war, part of astronomical observances with the ball as sun and the dual hoops as sunrise and sunset, an allegory for the eternal struggle between the day and the night. A lot of debate. Let me show you on this frieze here. Very interesting. Here is the loser of... here's maybe the captain of the team, but certainly on the losing side. He's been sacrificed, okay? Head, there it is, being held by the hair by a victor. The head has been chopped off. Here's the blood shooting out in the form of 7 serpents. Okay, remember that the soul is in 3 parts, and one of those parts resides in the head, right? So, one part of the soul has been released, okay? Sacrificed, right? Part of the soul has been released to the gods. Sacred blood has been released to the gods as a result of the outcome of this ball game. They haven't taken out the heart, okay? They've cut off the head. The ball was just about exactly the same size as the head, as a human head. Here's the ball, but it's been magnified extraordinarily for the purposes of the presentation of this piece of art, right? Okay. Superimposed on the ball, which was a totally featureless big ball of rubber, you know, is this head and this sort of expelling of that last breath, right, that went off to the 4 winds when you died. You know, there's a lot going on here. I mean, not all of which we even necessarily understand, okay? We're never going to know exactly what the significance of the ball game was. All we know for sure is that Ulamalisli was deeply, deeply, deeply significant to all of the Mesoamerican peoples that played it. That's what we know for sure, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Whoops. Hang on. There we go. Now, for the Maya, it was associated, we do know this, with an often told and many-version tale of the birth of the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xibalblanca, whose father and uncle, Hun Hunahpu and Vukub Hunahpu, were playing ball near an entrance to Xibalba. Their noise annoyed those dread lords of the dark realms beneath the earth, who, through trickery, slew both father and uncle, and buried them under the ball court. Hon Hunapu's head was hung in a ceiba tree and was able to spit, like the head's still alive, was able to spit into the hand of a daughter of Xibalba, meaning the daughter of one of the lords of Xibalba was passing by. It was a goddess, her name was Shakik, okay? So the head goes, spits into her hand, which impregnates her, okay? And she ends up giving birth to the hero twins. Okay, hang on a minute, guys. I gotta get some water here. Seriously, this is close to losing my voice. But we're almost done. So she gives birth to the hero twins, who in due course grew up, started playing ball themselves, and annoying the lords of Xibalba. Now, this is a long story, and I've abbreviated it dramatically, okay? They were challenged to games of Ula Marisli, which the Maya called pits. They had their heads cut off. They cut heads off, and back and forth, and set them around, and it's all kinds of drama. After many adventures, the hero twins defeat the lords of Xibalba, and actually, in a sense, destroy their power, so that forever after, no offerings would be given to Xibalba by the living any longer. After that, almost as if there was nothing left to do, the hero twins would try to rebuild the corpse of their father. And failing in that final act of heroism, they would return back to the surface world and decide to keep right on climbing up, and into the sky. They climbed up the world tree, and then they assumed the identities of the sun and the moon, and no longer took on a dark identity when passing through the realm of Xibalba at the time of their setting, because they had defeated Xibalba. They stayed bright all the time, even when they went down into Xibalba, like, ha ha ha, face, man, you losers, right? So, sun and moon, severed heads, balls of rubber, perhaps for the Maya, maybe, as Louis C.K. says, perhaps for the Maya, the ball game was not only an allegorical drama of mastery between the fearsome lords of Xibalba and the Maya twins, and the hero twins, but also a way of celebrating that powerful O, that symbol of intellect, of awakened consciousness in man. It was through cleverness that Hon Hunapu impregnated Shakik, thus bringing forth his sons, who would avenge him and his brother, and through trickery defeat the lords of Xibalba. Seen in this way, the ball thus becomes the head of Huhunapu, the heads of his sons, the sun and the moon, pulled between life and death, light and darkness, victory and defeat, spheres, globes, circles, and O's, one and all. Maybe, just maybe, this is the great ball court at Chichen Itza. If you look right here, you can see the two hoops or baskets. And you know, they played this, you know, you couldn't use your hands, you had to use your shoulders, your head, your hips, and like your knees to move this big ball of rubber and knock it around. Crazy. To think about that, I mean, how they could do that, it's amazing. Totally amazing. Okay. The Aztecs and their calendars, like 3-4 minutes, guys, and we're done. And boy, am I glad. Okay. The Schiaparelli, which means counting of the years. The ritual calendar, which kept track of planting and harvesting times, as well as annual seasonal festivals, had a cycle of 18 months, each month 20 days long, which the Spanish named Ventana, with 360 days in all, rounded out into an accurate solar year by the Nemontemi, the 5 ominous days of inactivity at the end of the year. This was considered an unlucky time to engage in any activity that might have real consequences, so it was almost like 5 long Saturdays of eating, talking, and napping, like a vacation. The length of time for the Earth to travel around the Sun is 365 days. Their calendar, derived from that of the Maya, was superior to our modern calendar, derived from the Romans, due to there being no need for leap year every fourth year, as a result of losing 6 hours in every year until an entire special day is needed to square out the calendar. Right? The tonal povali, the counting of the days, the sacred or divinatory or the religious calendar of 13 months, 20 days long for each month, 260 days in all. Is it a coincidence that human gestation takes 260 days? I don't know. There were 4 directional quarters of 65 days, and in each of these 5 weeks of 13 days. The Aztec century ran for 52 years, was divided into 4 13-year quarters of dominance for each direction on the mundo, okay, or on the world, north, south, east, and west. Each day, or tonali, had a name, and a number, and a symbol, both related to a god, and as such, a color and a direction, and often an elemental force, earth, air, fire, or water, and was located within a month that had a name and a number, and etc. You can pause and check this out if you like. When the 2 calendars were worked together like 2 gears, okay, with the teeth moving like within each other, no one named day. With all of those things connected, color and direction and God, and all those things working together, no one named day could be repeated for 18,980 days, or 52 solar years, okay, which was called a calendar round. A full calendar round was 52 years. Okay? At the end of each solar year, and especially at the end of the 52nd year, or a calendar round, the new fire ceremony would be performed to affirm that the gods were not going to destroy the world. Just prior to midnight on the eve of the new year, all the fires in Tenochtitlan would be extinguished. The populace of the city would gather in front of the temple of Huitzilopochtli, where, at the top of the pyramid, the priests would sacrifice a victim and remove their heart, after which they would place inside the chest cavity a prepared kindling of wood shavings, and phosphorus. Lighting a fire, the high priest, wearing a padded glove, would then scoop out the burning wood from the hollow and, turning, would present this first fire of the new year to the crowd. This act would be met by a thunderous roar of approval, because it would be taken as proof that the Aztecs had done their job properly in propitiating the sun god Tonatiuh, who had given his life to become the sun in order to provide a new life to the earth and to man. Remember? Through a regular offering of blood and human hearts, they had guaranteed the world and mankind yet another year, another cycle of life. The gods were pleased. Can you dig it, brothers and sisters? Yes. Okay, now, I'm done. I'm going to go collapse and watch the Dodger game. They're playing the Yankees. I got it on the DVR, man. Okay, now look, there's a couple more things here that you're just going to check out over the next minute on your own. My dopey face is still going to be here in the corner because there's no way for me to get rid of it. Okay, but I'm done talking. I love you. My heart is full, but I'm done. All right, see you next time. That's all, folks.